Okay, hello and welcome to the MSDynamicsWorld.com Spring 2014 BI and Reporting webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert, and joining us for today's event is Dynamics BI strategist Tom Totten of Columbus. Tom is a returning speaker for us. He's done a range of sessions over the past few years, and I am really glad to welcome him back for this dive into Power BI. So as we get started, I just want to add that we do invite you to add your feedback and ask questions during today's presentation. Tom does have a full hour of material planned, but he will try to get to as many questions as he has time for at the end. Please use the Q&A tab or block that you'll see to the right of the slides to ask your questions. And also feel free to tweet your thoughts and questions. We'll be using the hashtag MSDWBI to do the same. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Tom Totten.
Thanks, Jason, and welcome everybody. Again, my name is Tom Totten. I'm a solution consultant for Columbus, dealing mainly with CRM and business intelligence. And today what I'd like to go through is Power BI for Office 365. The first part of probably the first half, maybe the first third of the presentation, I'm going to go through how we're going to put some data together. So I'm using screenshots in the essence of time, so we don't look at little swirly things on the screen. But we'll look at some live demo towards the end so we can actually see how some of these products work in action. So let me begin by saying that, the growth of data increases every day, as does the need for self-service business intelligence that can turn data into decision-ready insights. But too often the tools necessary to extract those insights are just as hard to handle as the data. And Microsoft Power BI for Office 365 is a collection of new features and services that together enable you to visualize data, share discoveries, and collaborate in intuitive new ways. Familiar tools, including Excel and Sharepoint, form the foundation of Power BI with deeper integration and powerful new capabilities. Power BI builds on your existing knowledge of Excel, amplifying your understanding and ability to capitalize on the ever-expanding world of valuable, yet sometimes unwielding data. So this presentation is designed to walk through the collection of self-service business intelligence features included in Power BI. While each feature is compelling in its own right, the value of Power BI is how its features and services work together and how the insights are secure yet interactively shared. So, okay, let's discuss how people in different roles can use Power BI, and then we'll briefly look at each Power BI feature. So who uses Power BI? Any Excel user who has a need for self-service BI capabilities will find Power BI very useful. With its familiar Excel interface, Power BI is immediately accessible and intuitively connected to the software and services already used by report creators and Excel Power users alike. While the focus on this presentation is the user or the report creator, other people in different roles also benefit from the features of Power BI. These roles tend to fall into three categories: report creator or user, data stewards, and IT professionals and report consumers. Let's look at each in turn. If you're a report creator, such as a data analyst, data or BI consultant, or a mainstream Excel user, you'll likely use Power BI's self-service BI features in Excel often and extensively. Online services that support collaboration, such as distributing interactive reports and sharing workbooks, are also an important central workspace and information hub. If you're a data steward, such as a data scientist or data administrator or IT professional, the online service features of Power BI enable you to provide specific and secure access to data resources. Online service-related elements of certain self-service BI tools, such as enabling the identification, selection, and secure distribution of on-premise and public data feeds, are also significant. If you're a report consumer, you can collaborate, share securely, and interact with reports using Power BI for smarter, insightful, and more nimble decisions. This includes using an online hub built right into Office 365, specifically tailored for collaborative BI. So what is Power BI? These features are part of the familiar Excel environment and extend its functionality to all sorts of cool data-specific capabilities. Some of these features have been available before, and some are new, but each is integrated into Excel and into Power BI online services. And these tools are Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, and Power Map. And with Power Query, you can easily discover and connect to data from public and corporate data sources, such as your AX data sources, and then mash it together with outside data sources, other internal databases, online sources, and so forth.
Hey, Tom, are you seeing the slides moving?
I don't have a slide to move yet.
Okay, just checking.
Yep, I'm good. We've got Power Pivot, which allows you to continue to create sophisticated data models with that data in Excel by creating relationships, custom measures, hierarchies, and KPIs. And Power Pivot, we can go to the next slide so everybody knows that we're moving along here. Anyway. Then we have Power View, so you can easily create reports and analytical views through interactive charts and graphs that help you explore and present your data visually in Excel. And then Power Map to explore and navigate geospatial data on a 3D map experience inside of Excel. And then in your Power BI for Office 365, you're going to have available Power BI sites, data management, and Power BI for mobile, which I'll show you towards the end of the presentation. So what's the story? Well, when learning something new, a story often helps. That lets you project how you could use Power BI on your own business challenges and opportunities. So in this presentation, we follow Anna. She's an analyst or report creator, and we're going to follow her as she creates a report on stock performance for the online Contoso network. The structure of this presentation follows how a self-service BI project often progresses. It starts with data discovery, mashups, and report creation, then continues to posting and highlighting, collaborating, and sharing. During her adventure, Anna exercises the features of Power BI. She also learned something interesting and unexpected about a certain subset of stocks during the economic downturn of 2009 by visualizing the data in ways that she hadn't before. So let's jump in and see what Anna can do with Power BI. Anna starts with a blank Excel 2013 workbook and goes to the Power BI Query tab. Power Query enables users to search, combine, refine, shape, and download data from all sorts of different sources and types. So on the Power Query tab, Anna begins with a search. Anna starts with searching an online search, so the online search pane appears. She decides to start with a search for the S&P 500, which she thinks is a good cross-section of the stock market. If she can find a list and associated data, she believes she can create reports that'll be interesting and representative. To her surprise, all sorts of results show up in the online search pane. The first result for her online search is a listing of the S&P 500 components from a web page on Wikipedia. When she hovers over the first search result, information about that data source is presented. The search terms she entered are highlighted, and she says that looks like it'll work. She selects Add to Worksheet from the bottom of the pop-out information pane, enabling her to download the data into Excel. Now she needs data to mash up against the S&P 500 list. So she finds the daily stock data from a few years back during the downturn and wants to load it into Power Query to shape and view. So she points to the query, and she points to from the folder where the data resides. Power Query then brings up the query editor this window showing all the data sources available in that folder. She could load all data from that folder by clicking the double down arrow icon in the right to the right of the content column. Right now she just wants to get one Excel workbook at a time. So the default name of the query is query 1, and over in the properties section, as seen in the query settings pane on the right, but she renames it to fit the data. So she calls it NYSE 2009 Daily. Renaming it will come in handy when she wants to use the query with other data sources and when she wants to share the query with other people. The data set, these data sets are large. They're over 80 megabytes combined. So she doesn't want to download the data to her workbook yet. She just wants to see the columns, decide how to filter and shape the data, and then will only bring in the subset that she's going to use. Under Load Settings, she clears the checkbox from Load to Worksheet and from Load to Data Model. Notice the Power Query describes the data source. In this case, an Excel file as binary. Anna wants to drill down into the details of that data, so she right-clicks on Binary and selects Drill Down. Excel shows the details of the Excel workbook. In this case, it contains a table. She drills down again, this time by clicking on the table. There's the data. But wait, the column headers are sitting in the first row instead of showing up as field headers. No problem. She clicks Use First Row as Headers from the ribbon, and Power Query uses the first row as the headers. Okay, everything looks good for now. She clicks Apply and Close from the Query section of the ribbon. In Excel, the query is available in the Workbook Queries. This pane is on the right-hand side. Since she cleared all the checkboxes in the Load Settings section of the Query Editor window, when she created the query, her New York Stock Exchange 2009 Daily query shows up in the Workbooks query with Load disabled. Now that Anna has daily stock data and the S&P 500 data, she can merge them. By merging the data, Anna only brings in the data she needs. In this case, she only needs the daily stock ticker data for stock symbols that are part of the S&P 500. To do that, Anna uses Power Query to merge the data. Power Query lets you choose the primary table and which columns are matching columns from available queries in the workbook. In this case, the matching columns are the ticker symbols, so she selects the ticker symbol column from the S&P 500 table and stock symbol from the New York Stock Exchange table. When she clicks OK, she's prompted to specify the data privacy settings for each set of data. She makes her selections and clicks Save. She renames the query from Merge 1 to SP500-NYSE Merge. In the Query Editor window, Anna can shape the data to meet her needs. For example, she doesn't need the column describing SEC report filing, so she removes it. The table with which the S&P 500 data was merged appears as expandable columns displayed at the end of the available columns. When she clicks the double down arrow, the double arrow icon in the right side of the new column header, all the columns from the NYSE 2009 Daily Merge appear, available for her to choose to include. Now she wants to get data from the NASDAQ workbook. She realizes all the data is in one Excel workbook, so she can get data from a file instead of a folder. From the Power Query ribbon in Excel, she selects Get External Data from File from Excel. She selects the NASDAQ 2009 Daily Workbook and clicks Open. In Excel, the Navigator pane appears, and when she hovers over the NASDAQ 2009 worksheet, she gets a preview of its contents. She selects the worksheet and clicks Edit Query from the bottom of the Navigator pane. The Query Editor window appears. Again, Anna clears the load setting check. At this point, the steps necessary to mash up the NASDAQ data is similar to what she did with the New York Stock Exchange data, so she selects use first row as headers, renames the query, then clicks Apply and Close. At this point, she has a query that merges the S&P 500 with the New York Stock Exchange, and another query that merges the S&P 500 with the NASDAQ data. But she wants them all to be in the same data set. She wants to append these two queries, so on the Query toolbar in Table Tools, she chooses Append. A window appears that lets her select the primary table and the table to which she wants to append the data. Fortunately, she's been naming her queries all along, so it's easy to determine which query she wants to append. The Query Editor window appears, and she renames this query and calls it New York Stock Exchange NASDAQ SP 500 Append. The Query Editor is the consistent interface for all Power Query queries, including query, merge, and append. This is the end result of the data she's been looking for, a set of New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ daily data, shaped to take out columns she doesn't need and filtered to include only data for symbols in the S&P 500. She's ready to load the data into the worksheet, so she checks the Load to Worksheet checkbox. She has a few changes to make before adding it to the data model, so she leaves the checkbox cleared. She clicks Apply and Close on the Query Editor ribbon, and the data is brought into Excel. With the data brought into Excel, she checks to make sure that the data types of each column is correct. For example, Anna sets the Date column to Date data type. She renames a few columns too, removing the new column dot prefix from each of the columns so they're easier to read. When she's done, she selects the Power Pivot tab on the ribbon and selects Tables, Add to Data Model. And her shaped, filtered, and merged data gets loaded into the data model, which will bring her to the next feature of Power BI, which is Power Pivot. So in summary about Power Query, with Power Query you can search for data across your organization, like your AX database, if you have a CRM database, POS system, etc., and across the internet. You can find the data you want. You can shape, filter, merge, and append different data sets from various sources, all without having to bring the data into Excel. Once your query is shaped and filtered how you want it, you can download it into a worksheet in Excel, into the data model, or both. There are all sorts of data sources that are accessible using Power Query, as the following images show. You can get external data from databases. You can get external data from various files, like CSV files or text files. You can get external data from all sorts of other data sources, online sources as well. When you have just the data set you need, shaped, informed, and properly merged, you can save the query that created that perfect data set, and then you can share it with other people. So with Power Pivot, you create your own data model from various data sources, modeled and structured precisely to fit your needs, that you can refresh from its original sources as often as you want. Anna now has her data loaded into the Power Pivot, the powerful self-service data modeling feature of Excel. Power Pivot enables you to create and manage a collection of tables and relationships right inside Excel. Anna loaded the appended S&P 500, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ daily data into the data model, but she also wants to load the base S&P 500 table. Doing that is easy. She selects the Excel Worksheet tab where she loaded the S&P 500 list, then from the Power Pivot tab on the toolbar, selects Add to Data Model. When Anna adds the table to the data model, Power Pivot opens in a separate window and displays the table she added to the model. She can also open the Power Pivot window by selecting the Manage icon from the Power Pivot toolbar. In Power Pivot, tables in the data model appear in tabs, similar to how they appear in Excel. Anna decides to rename the table just added. She wants to call it S&P 500. So she double-clicks on the tab and types in the new name. As Anna looks through the data in the model, she decides she's missing an important perspective: annual performance. She could take the first day's data, such as price, and the last day, and simply look at the difference. That would be pretty easy and fast. She already has a query that merges and appends all the daily data, which is the query she named NYSE NASDAQ SP 500 append. She needs a version of that same query that distills the data further to only the first day and last. So she goes back to Excel and finds her query. Switching between Power Pivot and Excel is as simple as selecting the Excel window. There's no need to close the Power Pivot window. And back in Excel, Anna sees that she closed the Workbook Queries pane. She brings that pane back by selecting Power Query, Manage Queries, and clicking on Workbook. Anna finds the query in the Workbook Queries pane, then navigates to the Query tab in the Table Tools and selects Duplicate. This enables Anna to start with the query she created to append the merged New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ data, then filter it to only include the first and last trading days of the year. The duplicated query appears at the bottom of the Workbook Queries pane as New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, append with a little 2. When she hovers over that query, a flyout appears with a preview of the data. She selects Edit Query from the bottom of the flyout. The query window appears, and from there, she can constrain the she can constrain the date field to include only the first trading day. She navigates to the date field. Anna can filter the date from that column to contain only the first trading day of the year. She starts to select the last trading day too, but pauses. To get the calculations she wants, data from the first and last trading day will need to be in one record or one row in the model. No problem. She'll just create this query first. She'll get the first data's data first, duplicate the query to get the last day's data, and merge the data from both queries into one table. When Anna selects Edit Query for the first trading day, she gets a screen that appears where she can make those changes. When Anna selects one of the previous steps, as you can see here in Source, over to the right-hand side it says Applied Steps. The data in the query automatically reverts to its previous shape, and it's the absence of the applied filters at that point in the query shaping process. For example, when she selects Source, the first applied step in the applied steps there, the data reverts to the state it was in when the step was applied to the query. Notice that the column names reverted and now have the new column dot prefix. Also notice that the date field reverted to a general data type, and although it's hard to tell, there's no filtering applied to the date field, so all trading days are currently in that data set. When she selects the next step, or the third step there, data appears as it's shaped up to that step in the data shaping process at that point. The only remaining changes are removed would be the filtered rows and the unused columns. Anna wants to change to this query, so she wants one change to this query so it filters results to the last trading day of the year rather than the first of the year. So she takes these following steps, picking up where we left off earlier. She clicks on the little gear next to the filter to the right of the filtered rows entry in the applied steps section of the query settings pane, and this window pops up. So she selects the drop down, and instead of having it selected on the first day of the year, she selects 12/31/2009, clicks OK, and she applies the changes. So next, Anna merges these two queries together. So she selects Merge from the Power Query tab on the ribbon. The Merge window appears. She specifies first trading day and last trading day and uses the ticker symbol to match the columns and clicks OK. As before, columns from the merged query appear as a table under a column titled New Column found at the end of the query. She clicks the double out arrow to expand the table into individual columns. She renames it and loads the data. When she's done, Anna has a new table in the data model that contains the first and last day's closing price data. The table in the data model contains some columns that she doesn't need and some columns that she would like to rename, and that's fine. She can do all of that within PowerPivot. From PowerPivot, she makes several different changes. She renames the column date to first day date. She deletes a few columns and transforms the data the way she wants to see it. And when she renames those columns, it's all going to benefit her later so that when she creates her reports, it all makes sense. Now that Anna has annual data in the data model, she can calculate the overall gain in both dollars and percent for each stock. In PowerPivot, you can create new columns in any table and use formulas in those columns that perform many different functions. These calculations are commonly called calculated fields. In PowerPivot, calculated fields use data analysis expressions, or DAX formulas. DAX formulas are very similar to formulas in Excel and work in PowerPivot and in pivot tables. If you're familiar with creating formulas in Excel, you'll be right at home with DAX. The first formula Anna creates calculates the annual gain or loss in dollars. She begins by selecting a cell in Add Column, then types her formula in the DAX formula bar. As she types, PowerPivot makes suggestions based on available tables and fields in the data model. When the formula is complete, the results are calculated for each row in the table. Anna adds some other columns, including percentage gain for the year, and applies the appropriate data type and format for each one. And when she's done, she's added several different calculations. Now we have creating relationships as well. In PowerPivot, you can also define relationships between tables. Relationships establish a connection between tables based on one column in each table that has similar or identical data. Relationships let you create reports that include data from related tables. Anna creates a relationship between the S&P 500 table and each of the other two tables that she has in her data model based on ticker symbol. She can do this by simply drag and drop in the diagram view in PowerPivot. In PowerPivot, she selects Diagram View from the View section of the Home ribbon. And to create a relationship, she drags the field of the primary table to the corresponding field in the table with which the relationship should be established. A line connects the tables indicating the relationship, and she can select the line to highlight the fields in the relationship. In PowerPivot, hierarchies are groupings of data elements that share a logical upper-lower relationship. For example, a geographic hierarchy might be state, county, and city. State is hierarchically above county, and it contains many counties. County is above city and contains many cities. Using hierarchies in PowerPivot enables the creation of reports that can drill down into data. Anna decides looking at sector and sub-industry as a hierarchy would be interesting, especially if she can create a report that lets people drill down into a given sector. There are multiple ways to create hierarchies in PowerPivot. Anna decides to create a hierarchy in the diagram view. To create a hierarchy in the S&P 500 annual data table, Anna right-clicks the table in diagram view, and a menu appears that enables her to create a hierarchy. So with those relationships established and the hierarchy created, Anna is ready to start building reports. So she wants the reports to be dynamic and engaging with lots of cool visuals, and she wants them to be interactive. So when she posts them, her coworkers can review and analyze the data in ways that are meaningful or most interesting to them. The self-service BI feature that enables you to do all of that and more is PowerView. So now I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So in PowerView, you can create engaging, interactive, and insightful visualizations with just a few clicks. All sorts of visualizations are capable in PowerView, and the reports created in PowerView are easily shared with others and interactively analyzed by report consumers. To create a new PowerView report in Excel, Anna selects the PowerView button found in the Reports section. There we go, under Insert. So she'll just click the PowerView button. But the PowerView tab in the ribbon only appears when a PowerView report is the active tab. With the new PowerView report sheet created, the PowerView tab appears in the ribbon, and Anna is ready to create a report. Now, I'm working with a data set that I've kind of taken a little bit further, so I'm going to use what I call my SP500 all data. And that's going to be what I'm going to use. So in her first report, Anna wants to show individual sector performance and how the sectors compared on each exchange. So she starts by going to, well, we're going to go to my All Data tab in the Fields pane, and we click the down arrow to view its available fields. And from here, to get started with the first report, Anna drags the gain or loss dollars over into the report canvas. So a table is created. Then she drags sector. We'll find our hierarchy, and she drags sector into the table that she just created, and PowerView creates the following table. PowerView automatically creates sums of the gains. Anna decides it would be more interesting to see the average gain for each sector, at least in this report, so she adds that field instead. So we'll go up to the calculation that she created, and she selects average gain, drops it into the table, and because she no longer wants to have gain or loss in there, we can just uncheck it from here. And she wants to see this as a bar chart. So she selects the table. It's already highlighted. And she selects stacked bar chart from the ribbon. Now she's getting somewhere, but they're all the same color, and she wants each sector to be its own color. So she needs to change the legend of her stacked bar chart. She wants a different color for each sector, so she selects her bar chart visualization, grabs sector, and she places it inside of the legend. There, that's better. She already has the sector name to the left of each bar, so she doesn't need to display the legend on the visualization itself. So to remove that, she goes up to Layout, Legend, and then selects None. The coloring of the bar chart is still using sector as the legend, but the legend itself isn't being displayed in the visualization. So great, that's what Anna wanted. Let's jump ahead a little bit. Okay, so we're going to jump ahead a little bit. Anna is getting the hang of creating charts for this report. She creates a handful on this report page to highlight each sector and how it performed annually and throughout the year. So she's pretty happy with the report page now, and she typed in the sector performance in the title for the report itself. And she likes to keep the workbook tabs neat, so she renamed the tab Sector Performance. When the page is first displayed, all sectors are shown in each visualization. And that's a little busy, as you can see here. When a sector in the bar chart is clicked, let's see, we'll click Financials. Then the entire report is refined to show just that sector. and each visualization shows how the sector performed. So here's consumer staples. Notice that the color of each line chart or line graph also reflects the color of the sector selected in the bar chart. That's because Anna selected the same field, sector, for the legend of each line chart. And one more sector, utilities. Now you'll notice that the chart in the upper right, which displays the daily stock price and the daily dollar volume of traded securities for the sector, no longer has a graph for NASDAQ. Why is that? Well, with a little investigation, Anna learns that because there's no NASDAQ traded securities in the utility sector, so PowerView automatically removed that chart from the visualization. So no utility securities traded on the NASDAQ. It's kind of interesting. So Anna knows that anyone viewing this report will also be able to select a sector, and the report will display the filtered results just like what she's seeing. So that's going to be a great presentation tool. This report page is done. She decides that she's finished and she's moving on to the next report, the next visualizations, and the next insights. So now Anna wants to look deeper. So first, she's going to go on to her second report. She wants to look deeper into the sectors, into one of the sectors. This report follows a similar format, but goes one layer deeper in the sector hierarchy, the sub-industry. So Anna drags sub-industry from the sector hierarchy onto the report canvas. It's good to point out that when you create a hierarchy, each level of the hierarchy is still available individually for creating reports. For example, in this section, or in this second report, Anna grabbed the sub-industry down here from the hierarchy, dragged it onto the canvas. You could have selected the sector from the hierarchy, and that got her started. So now, what she wants to select next would be the average. She wants to have a number in here, so she is going to be looking at the average gain. And because this is kind of busy, there's a lot of different sub-industries in here, but PowerView does give you a scroll bar so you can scroll through those. But Anna wants the entire report to contain only data on the consumer staples section. So she drags sector to the view section of the filters pane. So we'll open up the filters pane, and we're going to take sector and drag it onto our filters pane, and then we can select consumer staples. And then you can see that we filtered out only consumer staples. So we'll jump ahead again. Anna creates a few more visualizations, and when she's done, has a report that analyzes its sub-industry performance for the consumer staples segment. Similar to her first report, selecting one of the sub-industries in the bar chart filters visualizations in the rest of the report. There we go. Sure enough, it looks just as expected. So Anna decides this report looks good, on to the next. So she'll create her third report by going to Insert, Reports, PowerView. So she feels pretty good about her consumer staples report, but she's not sure she wants to create a different PowerView report for each sector. She's guessing there's a way to get all sectors and each associated sub-industry onto one report. So this is a job for slicers. Slicers in PowerView behave similarly to slicers in Excel. They filter all visualizations at once. To create a slicer, Anna drags the field by which she wants the slicer to slice the data. In this case, she wants to slice by sector. She drags sector over onto the canvas. A Power View table is created, and what she does next is she just clicks Slicer from the Design tab on the ribbon. And because we have scroll bars, we can adjust the size of our slicer to fit everything in there. She creates a few more visualizations, including a bar chart that will display each sub-industry, enabling report consumers to select a sector, then sub-industry to visualize its performance. Then she finishes the report. She names it Sub-Industry Performance. And we'll jump ahead and see how she created that. When report viewers interact with the report, they can select a sector from the slicer now in the upper left-hand corner. And now she can look by sector into the sub-industry performance. And if she wants to drill down further into the actual sub-industry, she can click on the sub-industry as well and filter out sector and sub-industry on her daily stock price, daily stock gain and loss, and her daily stock volume. So this report looks good. She gives it a title, changes the tab name, and moves on to the fourth report. So in the fourth report, for this report, Anna makes use of the hierarchy she created in Power Pivot. She creates a new Power View report. She drags the sectors hierarchy onto the canvas. So she'll take the sectors hierarchy, drag it onto the canvas. She adds sector to the legend. Oops, she needs to make it a bar chart first. And as what can happen in a live demo, can happen just like that. So we'll go to the finished result. So what she's done is she's created two different bar charts, average gain dollars by sector and sub-industry. She added the labels by going to her layout and added her data labels, as you can see there. And she also created the ability to drill down into the sector to display the sub-industries. Once you've drilled down into a sector and then you want to drill back up, in the upper right-hand corner you have a drill up arrow that can take you back out to the higher level of your hierarchy. She has a similar bar chart as far as looking at average gain percentage so that they can compare the two. So you can also hover over each bar and you'll have a flyout that shows you the numbers for each sector or sub-industry. So when she drills down on her financials, this is one of the things that I mentioned in the beginning. She notices that by looking at the retail REITs, she finds something in the middle of the global downturn, which was initiated by subprime mortgages and a dive in the real estate values and the real estate industry, that they were growing better than most. And that struck her as interesting and unexpected. When she's ready to drill up, like we showed before, we just hit the arrow. So she likes this pair of visualizations. She decides to leave it at that and go on to her last report, report number 5. And that is going to be a perspective. She realizes that one of the perspectives missing from her reports is individual stock performance. So she doesn't want to show every stock in the S&P 500, but selected stocks based on performance in their sector. She thinks that would be kind of interesting. So this time, we're just going to just jump ahead and look at the finished report first and review what she did. So here, what she can do from here is look at the healthcare sector, and then we're looking at all of the healthcare companies, their daily stock prices. And we also have a scatter chart down here in the bottom left-hand portion of the canvas. This is to visualize each sector's average gain in dollars and average percentage gain with each bubble's size based on average dollar gain. As each sector is selected in the bar chart, other report visualizations display data that corresponds. And we could filter out other things as well on this one. So in general, with Power View, you get self-service visualizations that are easy, interactive, and cool. Power View brings the data model alive, turning queries into visual analysis and answers. And the collection of visualization tools and filtering abilities available in Power View make its possibilities limited only by imagination and experimentation. Now, we talked earlier about collaborating all of these different reports. So one of the things that is great here is that we can take these reports and publish them out to Power BI in Office 365 and be able to share them with others. So the way that we're going to do that, first I'm just going to close down. Don't need to save that. Close down that workbook, and we're going to go and look at Office 365. And what I've done is I've gone to my sites area. And I'm going to go click on my team site, or I should say Anna's clicking on her team site here. And we can, let's see, we've got different options, but we also see that we have some documents down here. And I'm going to click on the document section, and now we can see that we have a few different workbooks that we can work with here. And then we also have a Power BI section. So when we go into Power BI, we have some exciting visualizations that we can look at. So here just happens to be some samples, World Bank indicators. So while that's spinning up, here we go. So this is looks like it's going to be looking at first population increase. So you can see that the tabs of these Power View reports, just like you would see inside of Excel, are at the bottom of the Office 365 browser experience. So this is population growth, urban versus rural population. And it interacts just like it would inside of Excel, like what we were just looking at, filters, drilling in and out. I'm going to go back to my Power BI, and the way that we can get that workbook that we just worked with in our demonstration into the Office 365 SharePoint environment and the Power View section is, first I'm going to go into my documents. I'm going to just upload that file. So click on Upload, Browse, and I have a file here for upload. We'll just click OK and upload that file. And we're doing this live, so I picked files that should render rather quickly. Okay, so there we go. There's our Power BI stock data version 13 for upload. Great, now I can share this file with other people because it's out on my team site. But what also happens is that we can go into our Power BI section, and if we scroll down, we can see our Power BI stock data version 13 for upload. and it's not ready to be used yet, but by clicking in the ellipsis down here, we can enable this for Power BI for Office 365. Click the Enable button, and it's working on it. So now Anna can build all the reports that she needs. She can upload them to Power BI in Office 365, and she can share them with her associates. And then once the report is enabled, we can now open the report in Power BI and interact with it in a collaborative environment. Come on. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Here's her sector performance. See how that looks. And to take this one step further, because I am running on 9 minutes to the hour, I'm just going to leave that clicked there. And I'm going to jump to my mobile application. So keep your eyes open, Jason, just in case my screen doesn't show this. But I'm going to jump over here into my Start menu, click on Power BI. And for your tablet device, we have a touch-enabled experience where we can look at some of those. These are just the samples. So if I want to browse, I can look at my, actually I need to add one. Here we go. Let's see if I can get in. Are you able to see it, Jason?
Yes. I see
Okay.
authentication screen right now.
All right, good. Yeah, we need to add. Actually, it should be TT05. .sharepoint.com. I need to add the location. And there we go. Shared documents in my tablet experience. So then I will just go to my average gain by sector. And you have mobile Power BI, collaborative Power BI, and self-service Power BI. All right, Jason. I will see if I can field any questions at this point.
All right, great. We've had a few that came in. One that came in quite a bit earlier, while you were still showing some of the Excel screenshots, was about merges. And one of our audience members asked, "Can we is a merge an inner join or a full outer join?"
It is. Let me see if I can find it in here. I'm going to look and see if it's going to show me. My screen is just, you just have the slides up right now, right?
Right, we see the Power View demo slide.
All right. I'm pretty sure I know. I just don't want to say it until I verify it. All right, Power Query. The merge. Let me move on to the next question while I'm looking up the answer for this one.
Okay, another question here. Can we upload charts? Can we upload charts to SharePoint and then Enterprise Portal in the case of using Dynamics AX?
Let me read that one.
I think the first part of it you basically answered in your demo, but here's the second part. As it's in the you'll find that in the chat.
Upload these charts to the SharePoint or Enterprise Portal in case of using. Yes, absolutely. I've done several demos where I've taken Power View reports and added them into the Enterprise Portal. So yes, you can do that. Can we upload these charts to SharePoint? Okay. So that was actually that was question twice. So yes, we can do that.
Right.
Power queries are a place that stores all the created links among tables in case there are more than 2 tables. Okay, I'm going to get back to that one.
There's a question publishing to an internally hosted SharePoint site instead of Office 365.
Yeah, sure. It's just a workbook. That's the beauty of it, is that everything is all encompassed in that workbook. So you certainly could publish it to SharePoint. Now, there are other ways of using Power View outside of the way I'm describing it today. So I'd like to give that person questioning that a little bit more extensive answer and maybe some documentation on how that would be done. But I would probably, if you're using an internal SharePoint environment with AX in that case, you might want to, depending on the type of SQL server you're using, you may want to set things up a little differently there.
All right, I'm just browsing through the question queue here.
When sometimes I transform the date in Power Query, it retains the previous format when I load it to Power Pivot. I've not experienced that yet. I know. I actually had something similar, and this is from Mr. S. I think if you load your data set into the worksheet and you change your field type in the workbook, in the Excel workbook, it doesn't flow back in through the query and into Power Pivot. I've had that happen to me too. So what I did was I edited the query and changed the data type in the query editor window and then loaded it into Power Pivot and didn't have any issues. So try that.
All right, I think we're at the end of our question queue here. We can make a final call. Tom, do you want to put up your contact slide so people can know how to reach out to you if they want to follow up?
Yes.
With other AX or Power BI related questions?
There we go.
All right, excellent. Well, let's see here. May have one other.
Any of the questions that I didn't quite get to, I will answer them in email. Okay.
Perfect. Well, Tom, first let me just say thanks again for taking the time to present to us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to everyone in the audience for your time, your attention, for the great questions. We are recording today's session. We'll have it up soon. We'll send you an alert. Be on the lookout for more BI sessions coming up. We have a vendor shootout session, and we have another Excel hangout planned for June. So we do hope to see you there. So with that, I'll say thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.